Generally, on the climate policy front, I believe much more leadership and can come from the private sector globally. The notion of climate justice, of course, is very important in this context, and I'm glad to be a member of this group because the diversity of experiences, of views, makes for a very constructive discussion. I believe that if you use the right concepts, language, also particularly economic arguments, that this resonates with the private sector and triggers action also on the climate justice front. I believe that building alliances of some of the large private sector players around certain specific issues with very clear commitment, with very clear targets and with scale, so that you really make a difference, is the way to go. To give you some examples, when we started in Germany and then in Europe as a whole, Desertec, which is the idea of bringing electricity from North Africa to Europe. This was entirely a private sector initiative of the big utilities, of technology companies, of banks, reinsurance companies. It's a long-term vision, but it had this criterion met of commitment, of scale, and so on. Or what we are now trying to build is a methane alliance to limit methane emissions. Again, a coalition of private companies, oil and gas, to commit to that. I believe the art will be to expand that to climate justice issues. And here I see one promising avenue. Increasingly, shareholders and institutional investors of the big companies are concerned about what I call long-term sustainability in an environmental, social, and governance sense. Notions of stranded assets, that you might be invested in assets that have really no long-term future, should lead to divestment. The commitment of companies to report more openly on how well they do on the environmental, social, and governance front in their reporting, I think opens the door for really moving the needle, because these institutional investors, pension funds, insurance companies, and so on, endowments, these are trillions of dollars or euros that you could move in the direction of divesting from one set of assets and reinvesting in another set of assets that meets these criteria of sustainability, environmental, social, and governance sense. I would go for integrated reporting. That's the government contribution to that, so that you force companies to report not only financially, but also on those elements. And it has a very strong climate justice connotation by definition, because it deals with environmental and social sustainability.